So how exciting is this show? I mean, in the sense of what attracted you to it? What do you think its power is?
Well, I'm a Philip K. Dick fan.
Okay.
So starting with that, I mean, I think it's also an excellent book. I was initially curious about how they would manage to adapt the book, and I think that Frank is definitely the right person to do that. They found ways to honor a great piece of literature while also knowing that you have to make it dramatic, and they've managed to translate certain aspects of the book into something slightly different for the television format, and I think it's exciting. The biggest difference being, of course, instead of The Man in the High Castle being a book, it's actually these newsreels now, which is a big difference, but at the same time, it makes it possible. It makes it possible for it to be a TV show, basically.
Well, it's the MacGuffin, basically, whichever form it takes.
Yes.
Now, with the Amazon format, comparatively to like Netflix, who allows you to shoot your entire series, you guys had to go through the pilot process and then find out. Did you find out you were basically going to be greenlit and then shoot it all, or were you shooting the entire thing in the hopes?
No, we found out. We did exactly what you said. We made the pilot and we waited anxiously for the pilot to come out. But honestly, in this instance, it was sort of like it felt like it was Christmas morning. We woke up the next morning and you just see all the things that start to come out. Like the first headline I think that hit, it was comparing it. It was saying this is Amazon's House of Cards, and that sort of became the running theme throughout the day. And then you just watched, and you could literally just watch the number of views of the pilot go da 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 da, and the response was so overwhelming. It just sort of felt like we were good kids over the year and Santa Claus came. It was a nice feeling.
Jumping back to the book thing for a second, were you familiar with the book before taking on the role? And if not, what really attracted you to the role?
Well, I was familiar with the book, but my role is not in the book. So when I heard that they were adapting the book, I was excited about it. And then when I went to go read for Keto, I knew that he wasn't a part of the book, so I was intrigued and a little worried and excited, and so there have been a lot of conversations and stuff about who he would be and what his role will be in the series. And he's not here, but Rufus Sewell, who's also Rufus's character, John Smith, and my character are the two that aren't represented in the novel, and we sort of represent to a certain degree two different sides of a similar coin. We're sort of the representatives of order in the world. Me on the Japanese side as the head of the Kempeitai, and he as a high-ranking member of the American Nazi Party. So that's been really fascinating for us, because I think everyone has certain dramaturgical roles in the series, and ours are, the other characters have certain allegiances to the novel that they're trying to represent, and archetypes, and Rufus and I are sort of extensions of Frank and the writer's sort of greater vision of their world. We're sort of the new, the members of their administration, we're sort of bring Frank's vision into play.
It goes into some of the darkest territory too. It seems like in this.
I think, yeah. Have you seen? What have you seen?
I saw the first two.
You saw the first two. So I think for Keto, certainly, there's certain things that have to be done to maintain an ordered society, and I think he is one of those people that does the dirty work to maintain that order.
That must give you a tremendous, almost excitement of working on the show as well, though, because with your character not being in the book, you don't know what's coming for you.
Right.
So maybe something that you're always you're always waiting.
Yeah. For better and for worse,
yeah.
Always waiting. Yeah, it's really exciting. I mean, honestly, there was a certain thrill about getting the new scripts and stuff and seeing, because the world is the potential behind the world is so tremendous, and the production design of the show, the costume design of the show are so top notch. Like the work that they've done is so exemplary. I was saying to someone earlier, like you walk on a set, designed by Drew Boughton, and you feel like you're in another world, but you also feel like if you went up to any drawer and you opened it up, there would be stuff in the drawer, and if you took out the book in the drawer and opened it to a page, there would be something on the page. Like it's that level of thought and care has gone into it, and I feel like when you have, it's sort of, like these virtual reality video games, you want to explore as much as you can, and you want to see what your role is within that, and And so yeah, it has been very exciting in that regard.
Since you were a new character, how much of it did they tell you about what to expect? Like, you don't have to tell us, obviously, but did they tell you straight out if you're going to live or die during the season, if you're going to survive the whole? Or did you have to wait for each?
We had meetings at the beginning, and then and like anything, once you get started and the million different pieces go into motion and you discover things as you go on, certain things change, certain things you get to much faster than you thought you could, certain things you don't get to right away. So, you know, Frank is a great communicator and he's a lovely man and a good collaborator. So I feel like we were always checking in. You know, what's working for you? Here's what we're thinking. We haven't gotten to this yet. We're thinking about this now. So, especially in a first season, there's been a lot of collaborative growth, not just with my character, but with everybody. And the stories have sort of grown to reflect that. It's, you know, you can write a whole season, but once you leave the writer's room and start rolling camera and real people are talking to each other and responding to each other, it begins to change. It begins to become its own thing. And I think the challenge for us, and one that I hope that we meet, is that that we've not only served what was written, but also taken it to a place that makes sense for who we all are together. You know, and I think it's a different piece now than it was when it started.
If sci-fi serves as a prism in which we can look at ourselves, what do you feel the show is saying through that sci-fi prism of this alternate history? What is it saying about our society, about us as people?
It's very fascinating to me how incredibly interested people have been right away by the idea of our show. Just that, you know, what if the other guys won, kind of a thing. And so you begin with that sort of fascination at a distance because, you know, even more than Imperial Japan, like, you know, the Nazis has such a visceral impact on so many, and so you sort of are holding them at a distance as like the greatest villains that we know. So there's that fascination of what would happen if they won, but as the series goes along, it's not about holding that at a distance. It's about how people had to deal with that and how they moved on. It's 17 years after that happened, and so I think what the show starts to do, and we used this as a prism. You begin to see that the people wearing these uniforms are human beings, and they have likes and dislikes, and they like some of the same things you like, and they might believe some of the things that you believe in, and that's disturbing because it starts to get closer and closer to what we understand as the truth. And our hope is that not only will you come to regard all of the different characters as complex people, so the hero is flawed, the villain can be heroic. I think hopefully it makes people look at the world that we live in today, because there's that feeling of like, well, thank God the Nazis didn't win, but then you look around and you might question what's happening in the world we live in today and what the good guys are or maybe doing, you know, and it sort of makes you be more aware of our own world. So through this world, hopefully you become aware, more specifically aware of our own world.
Can I follow, or you guys? Is that okay? Because I found one of the most chilling moments in the first episode, I guess it was, is when the police officer helps Joe with the flat tire, and he has this nice casual conversation. Here's a sandwich, be my friend, you know, all this stuff, and he goes, "Oh yeah, that smell, yeah, they're burning the bodies of the weak and the ones who are holding back society."
Yeah.
The most chilling moment for me out of those first two episodes.
Eating sandwiches with the ashes coming down.
It's the theory of banality of evil. It's because it's become commonplace, no one cares anymore.
Right. Which is what I hope, you know, will raise people's awareness for that in our own lives. You know, that it's easy for us to see it in someone else. It might be a little bit harder to see in our own, but when you begin with the expectation that this is so far from our reality, we can accept it, then we kind of get inside it, and then hopefully we challenge what you think about your own.
You guys have been the beneficiary, I think, of Amazon's largest marketing campaign to date, for sure. Do you feel that, I know you're obviously very proud of the show that you've been in, do you feel that this is, you know, someone else mentioned that this is Amazon's House of Cards. Do you think, is this the next level for Amazon's original program? Are you guys hoping that you guys take it there, I guess?
Obviously, we would love for people to think our story is relevant and interesting, and hopefully it'll be successful. And, you know, obviously, who doesn't want people to want to watch? You know, we want people to watch our show. We want people to like our show. it's sort of out of our hands, like of what it will become or what people, if people want to compare it to a show that succeeded like House of Cards, that's tremendously flattering for us, and it's something that we aspire towards, to create something of quality and something that's interesting and something that people haven't seen before. But that's not our place to say. It's up to the viewers, and we're very grateful for the fact that Amazon is giving us the platform and the opportunity for people to know about us, to see us, and it feels really good that they believe in us. So hopefully the viewers will feel the same way.
So you were talking about the fact that you were on sets and the amazing set design and the costumes. So was the majority done on set without green screens and things like that?
The majority is, but there's. I'm always surprised at what they're able to do nowadays, because sometimes you're just shooting a scene. Like there's a great scene in episodes 4 and 5, I guess. The Crown Prince comes, and he comes to San Francisco, and so people come to see him. And we had like 400 extras on set that day. It was truly cinematic. I mean, it was huge, and all these cameras and this whole area. But then you find out later, of course, it's not just 400 people. There's going to be like 400,000 people, and so you're in this situation that's already very real to you. And then, I've seen some rough cuts or whatever, and you see it's been multiplied exponentially. So there is, what's interesting is the way they're sort of able to, it's not just like a green screen, and it's not just like live stuff. The way they're being able to, there's a fluidity. The technology is meeting the filming itself, and you're getting this great new, it's seamless.
So your character, he exists in a world that, like you said, is a lot like ours, but in a lot of ways it's different. You say there's such subtle differences, but then at the other times there's large ones.
Yeah.
So what's it like getting into the mindset to play a character in that situation? Is it like playing a character in our world, or do you really keep that in the back of your mind at all times, how different everything is?
I think the preparation of it is very similar to anything else you would do, which is that you treat, no matter what you're portraying, it's a different world than your own. And I think it's sort of making whatever in your process you have to make the leap into a new world, and to make it as if it were your own. I mean, certainly there's so many differences. The biggest one, even really just being time period. It's just a different time. It's a slightly alternate time. But once you begin that process, and then you begin it on your own, and then you start doing it with other people. You look someone in the face, and they've been doing their work, and you're looking at each other. And then we were talking about like Audrey Fisher, the costume designer, and Drew. They're designing their stuff, and you're there. This amazing alchemy starts to happen. The melding of all of your individual work that you do comes together. And sometimes, if you're lucky, and if and the story's right and your work is right, then it starts to really help create this thing between you all. But that's something that you can't do on your own. And that's what makes a great show so mysterious and amazing. Is it's something that happens between everybody, and hopefully it'll happen between us and the viewer too.
And you brought up the thing before about how you get to know the Nazis, so to speak, closer, and get to see them as similar in a lot of ways. About your character, is there an opportunity for the character to change and evolve over the course of what happens? I mean,
that's the hope. I mean, the hope is, in broad strokes, I mean, I would like to sit here and tell you the ways in which my character is a man of integrity, which I think he is, but clearly he comes across as a very intimidating, dark, perhaps even evil character, certainly in the first 2 episodes. And there are going to be a lot of things he does during the course of the season that are mysterious or not fully explained, or we assume it's one thing. And hopefully, during the course of the season, with him and with all the characters, you'll begin to see that they're all motivated by very similar things. Everyone to a certain degree is motivated by love in a strange way, and even the bad guys. So
now, something that's been actually coming up in modern day recently, especially with China and Japan, is that Japan is still really struggling with their imperialist history and with the war.
Yep.
And especially in that time period, Japan was very regimented. Everything was done with a hierarchy. How is that? Basically, you kind of taking that on, and a character that could be, seen as a representation of all the propaganda that other people are putting out about the Japanese at that time. And what is it like for you, as someone of Asian descent, playing something like that?
Well, it's tricky because there's two different things here. One is there's the politics of it, the politics of representation, the politics of Asian Americans in the media, all of which are very important, and they're important to me. And then there's, on a separate level, there's the art of it, the acting of it, the portraying of an individual. And I am an actor first and foremost, and so I feel like if I can specifically do my job well, then that will create a real complex person who's living in a time period and doing certain things that we can view in a critical way, perhaps. But if I do my job right, or if we, the show, do our jobs right and create a compelling, real character, then I don't think we will have that much of a problem, because we're talking about human individuals. If I don't do my job well, we'll have to have another conversation.
Have you been given any hints of where things are going?
It's a very fluid thing. I think, the more the show becomes what it is becoming, the more everybody sort of recalibrates and figures out where the best places to go are. So I think as far as my pay grade goes, I know only to a certain amount. I don't know what's behind, like, the velvet curtain.
You talk about the. Are you ready? You have to say,
I was
please.
just going to say, how much do you feel like the story is informed? And there's a lot of growing anti-Semitism in Europe right now. It's actually kind of scary, and
Scary
all
world.
over the world, but especially in Europe. How much do you feel like that's informed? Because obviously, the last time that happened was what led to the story.
So
How
what's
much
the
do you
question?
feel it informs this story, and how much is it considered, do you think, while you're making a story?
Well, it was interesting while we were shooting it. There was certain, there was an article that came out. We were shooting on a campus in Canada, and then that week an article came out that there were swastikas put up on Stanford. I mean, Stanford University, which is like, Stanford. They're putting it up. So you think they're putting swastikas at Stanford, and meanwhile, the picture of the swastika looks exactly. We're on a campus right now, and we're obviously, for our show, we have swastikas hanging, and it raises this interesting thing. It's sort of like, maybe part of the reason why this feels so necessary now is any piece of art reflects the community around it, and so which comes first? We're sort of like a prism or a mirror of the greater society. So I think we're reflecting what's happening there, and maybe they're reflecting what we're doing there. It's sort of a symbiotic relationship, I think. But it's very scary, and I think that there's lessons. Whether they're the same lessons, clearly there are lessons that need to be learned.
All right, guys, we're out of time. Thank you.
I hope that was helpful. Thanks, you guys.